Today is July 1st, 2024. This is episode 136 of The Tech Jawn from Columbus, Ohio. I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly, it's your girl Tech Life Steph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech, aka looking forward to a day off of my black job.
Right.
I'm not really trying to go back to work like that, but where you put your application in at?
I know. I need a black job. Shoot.
So anyway,
mystical black jobs they speak of.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, I don't want to call it comedy because this is real stuff. This is these are the two folks we got running for president, but it will be what it will be. But you know what we're going to not do? We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about tech today. Mm-hmm. So before we do, though, I do want to put the public service announcement out there that if anyone is interested who's listening and supporting the Tech Jawn, one of the best ways to do so is by becoming a patron. We've got multiple people who are hanging out with us right now who have been longtime patrons of the show who are watching us do the show as a live stream. So if you're interested in supporting the show and checking out our live stream and our after party, head over to thetechjawn.com/Patreon. And you'll see we've got multiple tiers over there, any one of which gets you access to all that stuff we were just talking about. And a couple of them even get you access to an ad-free stream for those listening in podcatchers. So once again, head over to thetechjawn.com/Patreon. And anything you do goes a long way. That being said, Terrance, I had a big smile on my face when I saw this story that you stuck in the rundown right at the top about the Detroit Police Department and how they can no longer use facial recognition results as the only basis for arrest. This takes us all the way back to our episode 0, even before episode 1, the very first episode that we recorded. This was one of the stories we were talking about, where a gentleman basically got arrested because he matched closely to, I guess, his driver's license.
Yeah. So let me break it down for you. So he was accused for shoplifting. Basically, what they did was they took his driver's license and compared that to grainy security footage, and they used that as a quote unquote positive match, air quotes, and arrested him. Mm-hmm. And when we reported on it, he was arrested, and we were like, "Oh man, that's messed up. They need to stop using facial recognition because it's faulty. It's false positives. Black people get the shorthand of a stick." Fast forward to now, he sued and won his settlement. And as a result of that settlement, like Rob mentioned, police can deport. Specifically, the Detroit Police Department can no longer use facial recognition as the only basis for an arrest. They've got to have a positive ID, and they've got to have this and that and the third. And then on top of that, they can use facial recognition to further their case. That can't be the smoking gun for their reasons to arrest people. And of course, in Williams' case, of course, he put out all the stops. He said he felt or noted that the facial recognition technology has been proven to be both racist and faulty, especially when used in real world conditions like blurry security footage. So basically he used, I don't want to say he was listening to the Tech Jawn or anything like that, but
he might have been.
Basically, he said he used the same arguments that we've kind of believed were the case with facial recognition based on, using that as the only reason, as the motivation or motive as to arrest somebody, which again, that's not enough. And we knew that. And of course, that's what he used in his settlement and actually won. And as a result, they had to change some things.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. I feel like you must have been, you got a listening device in my phone right now, because I actually just today turned in a story. I wrote a piece for Technically because I'm doing a series in conjunction with an organization called Love Now Media here in Philadelphia around AI and the digital divide, basically AI in the Black community or underserved communities. It's a 5-part series, and the first piece was AI and public safety. And I put this particular example in that piece, in that written piece. And, you know, as I was doing a little bit more research about it, I forgot we had even talked about it until I saw it in the rundown today. I was like, oh yeah, we did talk about that like a while back. But a couple other things about this particular case. What was I gonna say? I totally lost my train of thought. I'll get it back.
Another
I'll get it back.
thing, yeah, you're gonna say
Mhm.
something about, I don't know, facial recognition. You're talking about,
Or we could talk about
um,
this, just how egregious this was to begin with, because I remember distinctly one of the issues here was that the police officers who arrested old dude, you know, his name is Robert Williams, the police officers who arrested him said to him as they're putting them in handcuffs and into the back of the car, this doesn't look like you, but the system put a match on it, so
Is
we
what
have
we
no
did.
choice. So that's
Right.
one of the biggest things, Terrance, you may mention of that they have to change, because it's
I
like they knew it
remember.
wasn't him.
Right. And I remember the other thing. He was in the research, the additional research I was doing for my piece, he was like the ninth match of all the people. First of all, they matched him off of an expired driver's license. So
mhm,
clearly the
super
picture of
old.
him was
Super old.
super, super old. He was the ninth match. And they threw him in a photo lineup of
That's what I was gonna say.
with six
Mhm.
other people and showed it to somebody who hadn't even witnessed the crime. It was
And they set him up in a certain way to make him stand out in the
right.
Yeah.
lineup.
Right. And
So,
the person who ID'd him hadn't even witnessed the crime. They just saw the video, the grainy
Hmm.
video footage, and was like, yeah, I guess that does look like him. And that literally is all the police used to go to this man's house and handcuff him and drag him off to jail in front of his children.
on some
Because
shoplifting.
because in his
Yeah.
in his you know, lawsuit and everything, he talks about the ramifications of his children still being traumatized, you know, all this other things that are
It's
happening to him
embarrassing.
psychologically
Yeah.
and mentally and everything else. And based off of a old ass photo that shouldn't have been matched up anyway because it wasn't him. Because so the AI didn't work and the police didn't do their jobs properly in investigating anything
Or
else that might have tied him to that crime.
or were the police doing what police
Exactly what
do?
they supposed to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But they probably weren't trained. I will say this, they probably weren't trained because none of these police departments are getting any real legit, or at least back then they definitely weren't.
Hmm.
As part of the piece that I wrote, I talked about how the US Government Accountability Office did a study with the 7 organizations in the federal government that use facial recognition, including the FBI, Homeland Security, all those other organizations. None of the 7 organizations required any prior training before they rolled this out to their people and have them start using it. So if they didn't do it, I know these little police stations in Detroit and wherever else didn't train nobody on how to use this stuff. You know what I mean? It's just it's just bad judgment and policy and procedure all the way around.
Meanwhile, police departments are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on military equipment. The militarization of
Mhm.
police departments are
Hmm.
spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on tanks, these Humvees, these super
And probably don't know how to use
califragilistic.
them Jones neither.
Right. It's just okay.
Hmm.
Well, if you're going to spend that much, if y'all, we're not defund. Clearly, we're not defunding the police. Clearly, we're not abolishing the police. Y'all just gonna give them all the money.
Mhm.
Train them on how to use the stuff. If you're
Right.
going to spend all the money, it's like they love standing in front of them big old uh, um, uh, tank looking trucks, but they don't want
Mhm.
to sit in front of a computer and figure out
Humvees,
to use.
yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to sit
Mhm.
in a computer and figure out how to use facial expression. I mean, facial recognition correctly.
Right.
And you know, like the thing that gets me, which makes this so there's so many things that makes this a tragic story of what happened to Mr. Williams, but the fact that you have police officers who are, he's like, dude, that's like on the other side of the city. There's no way I could have been there. And the offer's like, yeah, I get it. It don't even really
Right.
look like you, but we
Right.
have to at least take
And
you in
the
and get
fact
it
that they
figured out.
use any sort of good judgment in this situation. And Detroit at the time, and I think still is, the city with the highest number of false arrests due to faulty facial recognition. One of the other people was a woman who was 8 months pregnant when they arrested her for carjacking, and
We talked
handcuffed
about
her in
that one
front of
too.
her. Yeah, exactly. Handcuffed her in front of her kids while she was trying to get them to school. Like, come on, y'all. Like, you really looked at this pregnant ass woman and said, yeah, she probably was the one that stole that car. And
Mhm.
you couldn't use any common sense or
Not
police
stole the
training.
car, jacked the car,
Right,
bumped somebody.
right.
That means you
Like,
got to
how
pull
did
somebody out the
Yeah.
car.
right. I
And the
was like,
thing
you
is,
couldn't use any of your police training. Did y'all got trained at the police academy? I'm assuming you
but
couldn't use any of that to say, let's pause first, before
They
we
get some
drag
more.
this lady out
so
her
Right.
house.
she, if I remember correctly, she got arrested a few weeks after the facial recognition flagged her. She was 8 months pregnant. So let's say it was a full month. She was 7 months pregnant. But the picture that they used to match her was from an older driver's license where she clearly wasn't pregnant in it. So it's like, you have to use some common sense. You could see that she is way bigger than what you have in this picture, and is matching based off of what she used to look like before she was 7-8 months pregnant. So yeah, it is a shame that these things have to go to court in this way. But I'm just glad that this is working out, and I'm glad that it's not that he's won his lawsuit, but they're actually changing the rules, they're changing the regulation, they're changing how they can actually use facial recognition in these ways. Because for Robert Williams, I mean, they straight up is like, well, let's put him in a lineup, but let's make sure that he's the one that looks like he's the one that looks like the video that we have. So the other 6 people in the lineup look nothing like it. He's the only one that looks something like it. And then your eyewitness, as you said, didn't even see him. They just saw the video. Well, that looks like, the person in the video. It must be that person.
Close
Close
enough.
enough.
Close enough. But yeah, I mean, Detroit is now, I won't say leading the way necessarily, but definitely out in the forefront of reforms that they're trying to put in place to ensure this, because they probably don't want to go bankrupt paying these lawsuits out every time this shit goes wrong. But I think at a minimum, not using that by itself is a start. And I think, police stations across the country should at least have that as a bare minimum. Like, it can't
Right.
be just that,
Right.
You got to get that in a fingerprint, or,
Right.
something
And
else. Like, it
some
got to be something else.
corroborate, a witness,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
some DNA, something. Come on now.
Literally anything.
Actual evidence
Right.
besides just
Actual police
grainy
work.
pictures.
How about do some actual police work? Ridiculous.
Yeah. So, y'all, this next one, I have to say this. I didn't know that this was still a thing. I just assumed that phones were unlocked, and that's probably a thing that I always tend to buy my phones outright, and they tend to be, at least I thought they tended to be. But Terrance, you stuck a story in here about the FCC essentially wanting to make it so that when you buy a phone, it's just automatically unlocked. You don't have to jump through hoops. You don't have to wait for a period of time to pass. I kind of assumed we were there, but clearly we are not.
Nope. Carriers like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile often use questionable methods to lock consumers into service plans well after a device is bought and paid for. Because that's the key. After it is bought and paid for. We're not talking about people who do the installment plans. We're not talking about we used to have the contracts. They don't do contracts no more. They changed the name to installment plans. So you buy the phone and they give you the, credits or whatever, you pay the $20 a month for 2 and 3 years, whatever the case may be. After that has been bought and paid off, or not, I mean, after you've paid off the installment plan, you would think, like Rob mentioned, that they would automatically unlock your phone to where you can say, all right, now I want to take this to, T-Mobile. I want to take it to wherever the case may be. That ain't the case. And now the FCC is stepping in. It's like, all right, this is stupid. Y'all really have to work and make it easier for people. I shouldn't have to do anything, right? So, and that's what the FCC is proposing, to where after a certain amount of days, or as soon as I call in to request my phone be unlocked, that they should unlock it immediately, no questions asked. in the past, they give you the runaround. They don't tell you. They should tell you, like, hey, if I was the FCC, I would make the carrier say, automatically the day after the thing is paid off in full, there should be an automated process that unlocks the phone. And then maybe a week or so before the phone is paid off, it should send an email, say, hey, we just want you to know you're at the end of your installment plans. You have these options, one of which being unlock your phone, take it to another carrier. That's what I would be at FCC, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I just still think it's crazy that even after let's just say, for instance, this goes through, from what I understood is I still have to call in and be like, hey, I paid off my phone. Now I wish to have it unlocked. It should automatically be unlocked. Why I gotta send a message and let somebody know, especially, and I've ran into this problem before to where, like Rob, I buy my phones outright for the most part, right? I just pay whatever the price is. Even in some cases in the past, to where I've decided to take my family to another carrier, and then the new carrier is like, hey, this phone isn't unlocked. You got to do X, Y, and Z. And I've had to go back and say, hey, why is this phone locked when I paid of the full price up front? Because when I buy, like, for instance, for iPhones, I buy them from Apple, and then I let them tell me, all right, what carrier you want to put it on, and I give them my number, give them the carrier. But then the carrier locked the phone down. It's like, wait a minute.
Like, it wasn't locked in the first place. So how are you
Right.
locking it into your system now?
Right. So that's one of the quote unquote funny business that some of these carriers have been doing to give people the impression that they are tied to the carrier that they bought the phone from, which couldn't be farther from the case. And now the FCC is stepping in and saying, no, that is not the case. And they're giving you the power to do whatever you want, again, after it's paid for in full.
So let me ask you, would this apply to the phone number as well? If you didn't have an unlocked phone that you brought to the carrier, you bought the phone from the carrier, they gave you the phone number, but you paid the phone off, the phone gets unlocked. Do you get to take the phone number?
Yes, you do get to take the phone number. Porting phone numbers is a common thing, but that phone, and it ain't even the phone. It's the mind games that the carriers want you to believe. They want
Jedi
you to
mind
believe,
trick.
right? They want you to believe that if you buy the phone on this carrier, the only way you can switch to a new carrier is if you get a new phone. And it's like they don't want to tell you because they want you to keep paying that monthly wireless service fee or whatever the case may be. So they're like hiding, like in the fine print. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, you can unlock your phone if you it's like FCC's like, no, you need to say that in bold print up front, that when you pay this thing off, you can do whatever you want to do with the phone.
There is a 5-letter word that this group called the OJs actually say 3 times in one of their most famous songs. It's money, money, money.
Right.
And here's the reason that I believe that these companies do this. Terrance, you said it when you first started talking about you buy your phones completely outright. And there's been times when you wanted to take your family to another carrier and then had to go back to your old carrier to get them to unlock first. Here's why. The only reason that they need to do this, just this one. How many times when someone like yourself was to go back to the carrier and you were just going to move somewhere else because it might have been a better deal. You weren't necessarily upset with who you were on, but then they say, oh, wait a minute, if you guys stay, we can work you out this ridiculous deal for like the next 18 months or 2 years if you just stay with us and you don't have to do anything. Well, let's just say that happens 10% of the time, where they can actually keep somebody from churning 10% of the time because their phone was locked. How many billions of dollars if they can keep people into their phone plan? Just 10% of them that are churning over because their phone was locked. And the only reason they didn't go somewhere else was because they came in and you offered them a better deal than maybe if they would have switched to someone else. That's got to be billions of dollars at these, because we're talking, these phone companies are of the biggest companies in America. I mean, they make money hand over fist. So that's the reason that they do it. But, I actually went and looked and see, because like I said, I really thought that these things were unlocked. Well, Verizon is arguably the best at it. What Verizon does is they will automatically unlock your phone after 60 days simply because you've bought one. It doesn't matter if you're on the installment plan and the installment plan hasn't been paid out yet. They're just going to ding your credit if you do something that way. But they unlock your phone after 60 days simply just because. So they're the best. The second best is probably T-Mobile. T-Mobile will unlock your phone automatically if it is capable of being unlocked automatically after 40 days. Their thing is, though, it's 40 days after your last installment. So you have to pay for the phone first before you can get it unlocked, unless there's some other circumstance, like you're in the military and you're being deployed and they don't have service in that area or something like that. And then AT&T is the worst. AT&T,
they stay being the worst.
They're not much worse than T-Mobile, but they unlock you after 60 days. But once again, it's after you've actually paid it off. So I was thinking that this wasn't a thing anymore because I've never really tried to take my phone within 2 months to another carrier. And I've been on Verizon for decades now. So for me, it's always just been my phones have always just automatically been unlocked whenever I've checked them. And it's been years since I've actually bought a phone directly from Verizon. I just, if I want a Samsung phone, I just go to Samsung.com and just buy the phone and then just activate it, take an old SIM card out, put the new SIM in, or if it's an eSIM, call the Verizon, say, hey, I got a new phone, and give them some numbers, and then the thing just starts working. I never really think about it again. But I didn't realize that T-Mobile, AT&T, unless you had that phone paid off completely, that they weren't unlocking you. And in the case of AT&T, they don't automatically do it. You have to call them and ask them after 60 days. So it is.
And see, that's crazy because I don't think this goes far enough. It ain't automatic if I got to wait. If I got to wait 40 days, if I got to wait 60 days, that ain't automatic. The second I send that bill off, I send that payment off, and I get that receipt, or I look into my account and shows that I have 0 left on the installment plan, I should be able to call that second, call AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, whomever, and say, yo, unlock my phone. And they should be like, all right, we put in the request. It may take 24 or 48 hours to go through the system or whatever.
I mean, but that should just be a switch that gets flipped.
Exactly. So why I gotta wait? Why I gotta
Right.
wait 90 days? Why I gotta wait 60 days?
They're trying to make sure ain't no chargebacks.
Right. When that date is coming up, like let that be a switch that flips.
They don't want any chargebacks. They don't want any issue with your plan to where you done upgraded something and then they all the way paid for.
You can give
Bill
it,
me.
You can give it 10 days to let the last payment clear. But yeah, it definitely should just be a switch that gets flipped and your phone just goes from being locked to being unlocked. So
right. It's crazy if I pay
too much
right. I spend $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for a car and I send in that last bill and pay it off. And then immediately I get not immediately, I can call and get my title. It should be easier than that to unlock my phone than it is to get a title for my car.
Right.
It really should be. And if you've got a good dealer, they're saying, hey, well, it's not really the dealer. It is if you've got a good bank. They're letting you know, say, hey, this car is about to come off because they're trying to get you to go get it to another loan. They know they're going to stop making that interest. So, hey, you're about to come off on this one. We're going to get your title sent over to you. But if you're interested in getting a new car, we've got this really good 1.9% interest rate right now. If you want to go do something new.
And we fall for it every single time.
No, thank you. I don't. As I ride in my 2015.
I mean, it's just like crazy that we fall for that. It's like, oh yeah, I can afford that payment. It's like, just keep the car.
I am there on
wheels fall off.
I really want a new car. So it's not even about needing at this point. I just want a new one because my car is 2012. So I've had it for a minute. I've got my money's worth out of it. It is still a good car. I just want something new.
I just don't want a
note.
Car payment. Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, I don't even know what I would do if I had to go back to a car note. Honestly, I can't do it. It's been too nice. It's just been way too nice.
So this next story that we're going to talk about, this one is of interest to me, even though it's not a U.S. story. This is what's going over in the U.K. Or I shouldn't even say the U.K. This is what's going on in Europe. So in Europe, there is a law called the Digital Markets Act, and it gives all kind of regulations and rules on just how big companies like Google and Apple and Microsoft and TikTok and, companies, I mean, these huge companies, how they run and how they deal with all kind of things. In this particular case, it is about, how Meta is dealing with data for users over there. So just to give you a little bit of backstory, what Meta has done, and they made this change last year, that if you are in the European Union, they no longer just automatically if you're signed up to Facebook, they just get all your data and do whatever they want to do with it like they do here in the United States. Over there, you have options. You can decide to pay for a premium Facebook account. You can literally buy a subscription to Facebook where you're paying so much per month. And when you do that, you're opting out of ad targeting. So you basically get ad-free Facebook, you get ad-free Instagram, but more importantly, they're not tracking your data. So they're not going to use your data to send you ads based off of your preferences, sites that you go to, all that kind of stuff. All the things that we get over here in the States, you don't get that on the paid account over there. But they said, but there's going to be a lot of people who aren't going to want to pay. So what we're going to do is we're going to let them opt into doing all those things, being tracked. So what did most users do? They said, oh, well, I don't want to pay, so I will opt in to you tracking all of this information on me so that you can serve me up personalized ads. Mm-hmm. Well, what the European Union, the European Commission, what they have done is they've come and said that this violates the Digital Markets Act. And I want to read you, it is basically under Article 5, Section 2 of the DMA. Gatekeepers must seek users' consent for combining their personal data between designated core platform services and other services. And if a user refuses such consent, they should have access to a less personalized but equivalent alternative. That's the part that gets me. Yeah. Equivalent alternative. So basically what they're saying is that the fact that you offer a paid version that doesn't have any tracking on it is not good enough. The fact that you're saying you have to opt in to use the free version to get, Facebook, and we're going to get all that tracking over there, that's not good enough. In addition to that, you have to supply an equivalent alternative that doesn't do the tracking. So what would you think that most people are going to do? Well, no, I don't want you to track me.
But that's bullshit, because that's basically the paid version. Mm-hmm. Like, I was reading this and I was like, am I reading this wrong? Like, I read this a few different times. I was like, am I reading this wrong?
You did.
Or are they trying to have their cake and eat it too?
You did exactly what I did. For the people who are not watching right now, as Stephanie is thinking and looking up left, she scratched her head. Well, she's like, wait a minute, this don't make any kind of sense. I did the same thing when I read this. Like, hold up. I was like,
I know I'm not reading this wrong.
It's like,
you basically want them to not track, but also not pay for an ad-free experience. The math just wasn't really mathing for me in this. And I was just like, I applaud the EU for everything. They really blazed a trail with regards to privacy, on the internet and stuff like that. But this, I was just like, nah, y'all wilding right now. Y'all
I look at it. Yeah. Well, I look at it like this, right? You have people who are paying for a ad-free experience, right? And as a part of the ad-free experience, they're also not getting tracked, right? Those are people who pay. Then you have the people who are okay with a ad-supported version for free, but just because I want a ad version, that don't necessarily mean I'm going to be tracked either. Serve me all the ads you want.
Right. But that's what the free version is, right?
Right.
Okay.
But then what Meta was trying to do was there was no differentiation between I just want a free version, but I still want I want to opt in to be tracked. What Meta and Facebook were doing were saying, well, if you want the free version, we automatically
you're getting tracked regardless.
You're getting tracked regardless.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's
so they want it to be, you can have an ad supported version that does not track you,
or you can opt in to being tracked. Right. Yes.
So what would be the difference between those two?
Well, because they're saying equivalent, I don't think there would be any difference.
Yeah, besides the fact that you get the personalized ad, you actually get ads you want to see.
Right, but they also don't track you when you go to different websites. That's what Meta does.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
They track you all over the internet.
All around the web.
You leave Facebook. And it's like, all right, well, create a personalized ad experience based on what I do inside Facebook, not when I
Right.
leave this joint.
Right. Okay. So the difference would be either just do whatever you want and I'm going to get these ads and I ain't paying,
Mhm.
or but then why would anybody do that?
That's a good question.
Good question.
That's why Meta don't want to do it.
That's why
The
Meta doesn't want to do it.
Same thing with the iPhone. When Apple pushed that ask not to track, most people was like, "No, I don't want to be tracked." Nope.
Right. Of course I don't want to be tracked.
And Meta was all up in their feelings
Right.
because Apple did that, and they ad stuff went down. And then
Mhm.
Facebook was like, "All right, well, we got to charge the business users more because this and that and the third, all because Apple put that thing in their phones to where I, as a user, if I download an app, you have to explicitly ask me, do I want to be tracked across this phone?"
Right.
So
Right.
now they tried it over in the EU, and EU's like, "Nope. Just because people want a free version doesn't mean they want to be tracked, and you have to give them the option to opt in to being tracked."
Now, I'm gonna push back on that a little bit, just a
Okay,
little bit, because it's free.
true.
So it got to get paid for some kind of way. And a company, I don't know what Facebook's revenue is
Hmm.
if you put it in those buckets. So the
Hmm.
bucket of ad revenue on accounts where people aren't being tracked and aren't
Hmm.
being served personalized ads versus the ad revenue on accounts where people are like, I don't care, do whatever, track whatever, and serve me personalized ads. And the people, obviously the people who aren't, who are paying for an ad-free experience don't count. So I don't know what the difference is in that revenue, but at the end of the day, it costs a lot of money to
To run
operate a
Facebook.
platform
Sure.
like
Mhm.
Facebook
Sure.
and Instagram and
Right.
whatever. And the idea that we have the entitlement that we've come to expect to get this information for literally nothing
Right.
is insane to me. It really
Right.
is. It's
So
absolutely insane to me.
Yeah. So,
true.
um,
Go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say, so I think one of the things that's going to happen here is that in the European Union, we're talking about pushing 500 million people. It's
Hmm.
too big of a market for Facebook to do things like that they do in Canada to news outlets. Nah, we're good. We're just not going to pay you. We're not going to serve your links. They just did that in Australia as well. The European Union is just far too big for that. So I think that they ultimately are going to figure it out. But I wonder, how are they going to figure it out? Are they about to turn the free European Union version of Facebook into like Tubi TV, where you see a commercial every 14 seconds?
I mean,
Are they going to just make it so that it's, hey, you can opt into getting these ads and you'll see less of them? Or, which I don't know, the way that Margaret Vestager, that is the chief over here that basically is in charge of all this stuff. The way she's talking about it is that, because this word equivalent is a thing. It's like, no, it needs to be equivalent. So if you're not showing, people who are paying a bunch of ads, then I don't, then we shouldn't show people who aren't paying a bunch of ads. So
no,
I don't
That's
know
you can
how
you
they're going to
can't do
work through
that.
that.
That's insane. That's
Yeah.
insane.
I
You
don't know
can't
that
do
that's going that I don't know that that's going to fly. But it's too big of a market for Instagram and Facebook to not figure this out. But I just wonder, are we going to be back into those early days of the internet? And I would just even say the early days of the internet, the .com era. Are we going to be back into where no matter what you were doing, you were going to see a pet.com ad? No, it didn't matter what you was doing. You could say, I don't have pets, don't like pets, don't like animals.
Yes.
But we're going to show you these pet.com
We
ads no
going,
matter what.
especially because you said you didn't want to be tracked and you don't want this and you don't want that,
If
then
I
you
was a
going to
business, I would
listen.
shove that right now. All right, this is what you
Man,
asked for.
and it would and it would be an ad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a shit. It's already an ad every two posts. I see two of my friends. I don't even really rock with Facebook like that anymore. But when I'm on there, it's three of my friends post an ad, two posts an ad, two. So it's already like it would be every other post would be an ad. If
Hmm.
this is what you're telling me I have to do
Hmm.
and provide the same equivalent experience, like that's not fair. It's not fair to commerce, and I ain't standing for Meta at all.
Right.
But like I said, the entitlement of
Right.
thinking you should be able to utilize this service for absolutely nothing,
Right.
is just, it's not realistic or sustainable.
Right. And I
So
think that's the key, right? And again, not to belabor the point, but I believe that most people understand that I'm using this app for free. So I'm either going to A, be served a ton of ads, or B, I may have to opt in to being tracked in and outside of Facebook, right? I think most people kind of understand that. What the European Union is saying is, we get it. Y'all want to make as much money as possible, but you have to tell people this is what we're doing and you have to opt in. Meta was automatically opting people in. You should give people the choice to opt out or opt in. The
point of
problem is,
clarification.
go ahead.
When they made the changes last year, they did go to opt in. It's just that your only choices are you opt into getting all of these ads and having all of this
And
tracking,
getting tracked. Right.
or you pay and you don't have either of those things. And that's what they're saying is the problem. It's like, no, that they should have been given the option to pay to not have any of it, or they can have an equivalent version where they opt out of being tracked for free. And
And
that's
this is
what's got
just
me scratching my head. And
For
like,
free,
wait a minute.
right?
It's like, so I'm
well,
supposed to just give you a free ride on my
Basically,
platform.
here, just come be on Facebook for free. Go
well,
ahead.
so again, I think the thing is they are tracking you inside of Meta. It's when you leave Meta, they're like, nah, you can't track, you got to people opt in to track them when they just go on their browser and they go to pets.com. Facebook can't say, oh, you like pets.com. Soon as you come back into Facebook, all you're going to get is pets.com's ads. I think that's the differentiation. It's like, we going to serve you ads and we're going to make our money and we're going to personalize this experience for you inside of Meta. When you leave
So,
Meta,
But then
that's
that
when it's like,
so
but then
let,
that
let,
changes their entire ad model. Those ads follow you because those websites got that Facebook pixel on them, not
and,
because I said you can or cannot track me.
and the
The
European Union
website said
Mhm.
you can or cannot track me.
and
Right.
the
So it's
European
just
Union
like,
is cracking down on that. It's
Yeah.
like, nope. Same way with
But
GDPR. It's like the
here's the
European
thing.
Union leads the way.
Here's the thing, though. I want to read this
that's
part
crazy.
of it. Uh, Gatekeepers must seek users' consent for combining their personal data between designated core platform services and other services. So that "and" is the thing. It's like they're saying we don't want you to do this inside of Facebook or outside of Facebook.
Oh, well, see, now they tripping.
Yeah,
That's what
if
I'm
I'm
saying.
understanding how that
Now
"and" is
relax.
placed, I'm a
Between
math
that
person, not
and that
a
equivalent, that's you.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, it says
y'all.
yeah. This is like right out of the the DMA's Article 5 Section 2. It says and it's not an or, it is an and. Or it doesn't say you could do this in here, but outside of it you can't. It's saying we don't want you doing this here, and we don't want you doing it there. That's how I'm reading that. This is not going to go away because we're literally talking about billions of dollars for from Meta standpoint. The market is just too big, as I said earlier, for them to just wash their hands of it. Because even though I didn't put this in the rundown, what has happened, this just came down last week, that Australia, essentially what Meta is telling Australia is that if you make us pay the Australian broadcasters and the news organizations, if you make us pay for their links, then we'll just take them out. And they're not joking with that. They did this in Canada last year. And, Canada had, a situation where they passed a law that said that, that Meta would have to pay for linking to these news organizations' websites. And Meta was like, okay, bet. And we won't. And they literally stopped. And they're scrambling, trying to figure out how do we get around this law, because traffic has just been turned off to these sites. But you're talking about Canada, that's 40 some odd million people. You're not talking about 500 million people. You're talking about Australia, that's I don't think Australia is
And
that
Facebook
big of a country. So
Facebook is wrong for that because we pay subscriptions and to get behind paywalls and all the things for all of the media publications and outlets that we like. Why would you think you would be different? You know what I mean? Just because you're driving some traffic to the platform, I don't know that it's a fair trade to say you're getting traffic for us linking to your articles for free. Facebook is just being greedy at that point.
There's that. And here's the other part. Facebook has made it very clear. They don't want to be in the news business. They've determined that that is not a moneymaker for them, and it causes them more issues than not. So if they say we don't have to link to your news site, and we're just, you've created a law, they're saying, well, they created a law and we can't do this anymore. And it's not in our business model that we need to pay them to link to their news site. So we're just not going to.
I find it funny that Facebook is like gangsta on Canada and Australia.
Right.
Like I said,
European,
the EU.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Come on, guys.
Can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
Can we talk about this? It's like, all right, be gangster or don't.
Yeah, because they're not talking about just big countries in Europe. They're talking about all the big countries in Europe outside of the UK, or I think dropped out of this. So it's like, when you add them all together, I believe they're pushing 500 million people in this economic area. So that's why I believe Facebook is going to figure this out. But I'm just interested to see, is it going to go back to where all you see are sportsbook ads? No matter what it is you're doing, if you are over 18, you're going to just see ad after ad after ad after ad.
That's the only thing they're going to be able to do, because, if Twitter didn't teach us anything, folk ain't paying for that shit. Like we ain't paying for it.
Not after we didn't already had it for free.
Yeah. That idea that you're going to convert all these millions of users to subscription, it's just not realistic. And even then, I still don't think it would be. I mean, well, Facebook is different. You convert 1 billion people to subscriptions, you might be making a little bit of money on that, but it's still nothing compared to what they've been making in ad revenue. And I think this would be the death of social media as we know it, honestly.
It's kind of going that way anyway. We see article after article about how, and we talked about this last week, influencers aren't making as much money anymore for being, and I've got a little tear for them, but they're not making as much money for being popular, not offering anything of substance, but well, I'm still as popular, but I'm not making the bank that I was. And I shouldn't do that, because it's like, we are all creators. We are all companies. Yeah, but it's
companies are still going to find a way to get over, even if they figured it out. Like, for instance, the whole reason why I'm off of Amazon, which it's all right. It's been a couple weeks since I announced that I was doing canceling Amazon Prime, and maybe because I forced myself in that shit, but that's a different story. My whole point is, when you paid for Amazon Prime, when it first came out, you get Amazon Prime Video, right? So it's like, all right, I'm paying for this thing. As a thank you, they're giving me this other thing. Never fails. Capitalism, consumerism, whatever. They were like, all right, well, we're still going to give you Amazon Prime Video for free, but you just got to get ads now if you want to opt out of that. It's like, well, wait a minute. I thought if I'm paying
it was
for
supposed
Amazon,
to be right.
It was supposed to be free. Now it ain't
part
free.
Of that. Yeah.
Now I got to pay for 2 of them. Companies they'll figure it out every single time.
So for the listeners who are not watching this right now, I am showing the stylus that I just Saturday had delivered from Amazon. I lost my stylus from my phone. And I was like, even though I don't ever use this thing, I can't not have it, because I now realize it is not there. It's somewhere in the house. I'll probably find it, but I have to have another stylus, and I need it immediately. So I ordered that joker on Saturday morning, and it was to my house literally like 90 minutes later.
You are the problem.
You are the problem, Rob.
Yes.
I will at least use my Amazon Day, kind of bundle my purchases together and get them delivered all at the same time, trying to save trips and be a little more green with it. But yeah, Rob, that's you need it in 90 minutes and you don't even use the stylus. Right. It's like, come on, bro.
If it would have came the next day, I would have been cool. But the fact that they offered the same day delivery on a Saturday,
you didn't have to take it.
I was like, bet. Click, order.
That's pretty terrible.
They make it so easy. And you was just on a program the other day talking about how awesome Amazon Music is.
I mean, listen, that's what they pay me to say.
But
It
it's
wasn't even
true.
talking. It was just the
It's
fact
true though.
that
It's not horrible. I mean,
it
it's the collection is not as big as
and
Spotify or
it was just
iTunes,
a
but yeah,
fact of I
yeah,
wasn't endorsing
yeah.
Amazon Music per se. It was
Mhm.
just the fact of that's what they offer. But I'm sure, shoot, now there's probably some little loophole there as well that you got
They're
to
gonna
listen to
start putting
ads.
ads
Yeah,
in
absolutely,
Amazon
Mhm.
Music and
absolutely.
say, now if you want
Listen,
to get out of ad experience on
right?
Amazon Music, you got to pay $2.99 a month, and here you
Hey,
go.
there was actually something extra. Was it on Amazon or was it on Spotify? I can't remember, but there was something extra I had talked about in that particular segment that I was just like, this is crazy. But yeah, that I mean that like I said, for social media in particular, Amazon's different because you are paying for that. So
Mhm.
Right.
whatever add-on they give you should be in the spirit of add-on and be free. But for social media, it's just like I said, I just don't know where the entitlement comes from
Mhm.
within you to think that you should be able to use these platforms without any sort of cost
Reciprocity.
yeah, reciprocity. Yes, right. That's a
Perfect
very good
word.
word for it.
Mhm.
Reciprocity, whether it be your data or something.
Mhm.
Like, I just don't, I don't see how that even flies.
Right.
I have
Maybe that's just
said this for years. When you use a free service, you're not the customer, you're the
mm-hmm.
company's product.
Near the product.
Because that's why do you think that they're giving it to you for free? Because they're getting all of your usage data on whatever that is. Even when it is like, free trials, I'll say that's different. That is more of a strategy to get you to buy something. But when there's like a tier that is always free, they're using your data to make it better for you, but definitely for the people who pay for the premium tier service. So yes, it's like I think like Canva is a tool that I love and use
Mm-hmm.
darn near. I would say if I probably use it every single week. It's not every day of every week, but I use it at least once every single week.
Same.
And I've updated to the premium version.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because just the ability to remove backgrounds is so good that it makes it worth the
Right.
$10 a month that I
The,
pay for
the,
this.
the stock, the access to
Yeah,
the
good.
different stock elements that are only in the
Yeah,
pro version, which are just way better than the free
yeah,
shit.
Yeah,
Like
they
you
are.
need they were way better. I'm like,
way
y'all
better.
y'all tried hard to make the free shit awful, so we would have to upgrade. Like, because you were like, really, like for real. The only thing I would say though, I think Facebook could lean harder if this whole EU thing was to go through. And if I'm understanding you correctly, Terrance, they can't do the tracking outside of Facebook. I feel like they could lean a little harder into how they track you on the platform,
Mhm.
possibly, because we share so much. I think there should be enough there to build a profile around and sell ads based on the profile you've built from the data you've collected on the platform itself. So
I would have no problem with well, I mean, it would be a crappy experience, but Facebook having a different experience for people who pay and people who don't, and still be able to meet the qualifications of giving people the option to opt in or opt out of tracking outside of Meta's platforms or services or whatever they're talking about, right? I okay with Facebook like giving you that experience that still they see you as okay, we're still profiting KPI, whatever the case may be. But it's just like you said, the fact that they want a free version with none of the hassle, it's like, come on, y'all. Come on.
yeah, yeah,
Come on.
you asking for too much.
Yeah.
It's too much.
So we're not
I'm
going to
not
spend a
buying
lot of time on this. I just got to ask, Terrance, are you upgrading to iOS 18 Dev Release 2 so you can do?
No, no. I have stopped doing that. I used to do it. And what Rob is referring to is like getting the betas, the beta
Mhm.
iOS is early before they actually get released into the public. I used to do that. And when Apple actually makes the announcement that iOS is available for everyone, and everybody is
Mhm.
like, "Ooh, I get to try this new thing," and "Ooh, did you know it could do this?" I've been and used it for 3 months already, so I'm kind of like, sad because I don't get the
Yeah.
experience like Christmas. Like if you imagine this, paint a picture. You're a kid. And once a month, your parents give you a free toy, right? They give you a toy gift. They say, hey, here's a gift. And you open it, oh, that's great. And then the next month, Christmas rolls around, December 25th. All your friends get all these toys and they're opening and they're going through the toys and oh, this is great. You, on the other hand, are just sitting there eating breakfast because you got all your presents
You got all your
over the
stuff
course of the
before.
year. Yeah.
That's how I feel when I get those betas and I'm using all the features all early. And then September rolls around and they announce it. It's like, I ain't got nothing new to play with. So for that reason, I quit doing it. So
I only
That's
asked
hilarious.
because in iOS 18 beta dev 2, they turned on RCS.
Mm-hmm,
So by the end of the year, I think Stephanie's still gonna bully me because I'll still be
I'm
green.
not a bully.
But it'll work. It'll work better. That's all I wanted to say about
Listen,
that. When it comes out, we will definitely talk about it.
As long as the group chat is not splintering off anymore and I'm not getting a whole separate text for reactions, I'm good. I'm good. Blue and green can coexist together as long as those two conditions are met.
The initial reports for the people who can get it to work because it's carrier specific and all that kind of stuff is that it's better than it was. It's, for folks who are thinking that it is iMessage, it is not. It is just, you can get reactions. You can send pictures that don't look like absolute crack, and it doesn't make the group chats break. But we'll talk about it way more when it actually comes out, because I know if you two aren't actually doing the betas, I don't have anybody to talk to about it.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. So once again, if you would like to support the Tech Jawn, the way we're talking about today is heading over to our Patreon page. You can do that by heading over to thetechjawn.com/Patreon. That is the tech, JAWN /Patreon. And we've got multiple tiers over there. We didn't have any new patrons this week, but we do want to shout out to folks like Saray and Charles and other folks who are hanging out. I'm not actually looking at the chat, so I can't see everybody who's in there. But, for all of our members who are hanging out in our chat right now and are going to hang out with us in our after party that we're about to do in about 2 or 3 minutes, we just appreciate what you do. And once again, for anybody who would like to get access to those benefits, head over to thetechjawn.com/Patreon. So with that being said, Tech Life Steph, tell folks how they can get at you.
You can follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph, or check out StephanieHumphrey.com.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And I am at Robb Dunewood on all the things. And we're also at the Tech Jawn on all the things. So come holler at us however you holler. Until we meet again in a week's time. Peace.